welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. I am your host, Paladino Joey, or Joey Owygen. Purple Mafia is available on all of your favorite podcasting apps, and I thank each and every one of you once and always for downloading and listening to the show. It is a great pleasure to be back on board with you once again today, despite the fact that it wasn't that great of a game. I certainly didn't like the result. No, I wasn't a fan of the halftime show, but when am I going to be a fan of the halftime show? If it was all 80s music, then I'd like it. All this modern stuff does nothing for me. Seattle Seahawks, pretty much, it was pretty much a Seattle Seahawks game to lose, unfortunately, pretty much from the get-go. 29-13, a higher scoring game than it was headed towards, but yes, regardless, the Seattle Seahawks win their second Super Bowl going back to at least 10 years. There will be Viking news to talk about, or just Viking conversation here, some more Kwesi stuff that's been out there. I figure I'll throw my 2 cents in on it. But before I forget to mention these stats, because I've been known to do stuff like that at times, I'm kicking myself right afterward when I do my quality control listen. The Seattle Seahawks have been to 4 Super Bowls. Minnesota Vikings have been to 4 Super Bowls, but haven't been back in 50 years and lost all 4 of the Super Bowls the Vikings have been to. The Seattle Seahawks, once looked at as a laughable franchise pretty much for so long, until, maybe when Mike Holmgren got there, that's when they started to become a competitive team a bit. Matt Hasselbeck and guys like that. Alexander, the running back, spectacular running back, won the MVP award. Unfortunately for them, lost to a determined Pittsburgh Steelers team. I mean, it was due for them to finally win one. In fact, they were 15-1 the year before and all of that, but a determined, hungry Pittsburgh Steelers team. Bill Cowher finally getting his ring and all that for his team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then he would leave the next year. A lot of people thought he'd return with the New York Giants or something in a couple of years when Tom Coughlin got fired, but that day never came. The Giants won a couple of Super Bowls with Coughlin, and Cowher never went back to coaching in the NFL. Where did I go down that rabbit hole? I don't know. But the Seahawks lost that one kind of ugly. Next thing you know, how many years later? It was 2005. So the 2013 season, the Seahawks clearly the best team in the league that year, despite the fact that they were not a likable team at all. Killed the Denver Broncos, absolutely slaughtered them for their first Super Bowl title. A very anticlimactic game from the get-go. The Denver Broncos were a mess. They weren't ready for that one, and it was just not meant to be. Bottom line, it was just not meant to be, unfortunately, for the Broncos. In that game. The next year, the Patriots squeezed past the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks lose their second Super Bowl. The Patriots win their 4th at the time. The New England Patriots win their 4th at the time. But it was a 3rd Super Bowl appearance already for the Seahawks franchise, who basically started existing right when the Vikings stopped going to Super Bowls. Them and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So kind of funny how that all happens. The Tampa Bay Bucs and the Seahawks have 2 championships in the Super Bowl. Vikings have 0, and the Vikings haven't even been back to the Super Bowl. So since the mid-'70s. So it's really sad when you think about that at the end of the day. Franchise, man. I mean, it's just, 4 Super Bowl appearances for the Seahawks, 2 championships, as of course they did go back 11 years later. That would be this year, and they won. I guess they were officially founded. Yeah, their inaugural season was 76. That was the final year the Vikings went to the Super Bowl. The Bucs and the Seahawks basically started playing. They were founded in 74. Like, you're an expansion team, and you're going to have a team in Seattle and Tampa Bay and da-da-da. You know how it doesn't happen like the next year. It takes a little while to get everything ready, the stadium and heck, the name of the team and all that. Inaugural season was the final year the Vikings went to the Super Bowl for both Tampa and Seattle. And I thought it was 76, and I was correct. So isn't that just crazy? 4 Super Bowl appearances for Seattle, 2 championships. The Bucs have been to only 2 Super Bowls, and they won both of them. So, yep, good for them. Whatever, right? 4 Super Bowls, 2 franchises that were looked on as laughing stocks for the longest time, because they were expansion teams that basically never got better until all of a sudden they did get better. About 20 years later or so. Yeah, they each have multiple titles. Vikings have nothing. So, more reminder there, of course, Sam Darnold being the quarterback of the Seahawks, and they won the Super Bowl, and Sam Darnold was the Vikings quarterback and all that. But we'll get deeper into that as we continue into the Super Bowl conversation. For now, we're going to dig back into Kwesi, which is kind of related a little bit, I guess you could say. Conversation as to who and why, like the whole quarterback situation with Minnesota and all of that, along with a few details that I didn't get into because the story was too fresh at the time. It was, I believe, talked about, but I was kind of in a hurry to get into the show, and there wasn't a whole lot of information out yet. It kind of came out the next couple of days that there was a time during the 2023 training camp that, at Kwesi, and some of us probably remember it a little bit, but it just kind of, went over our heads, not really thinking about it, is that Kwesi went on paternity leave for 2 weeks during the during the 2023 training camp, which again just doesn't make a whole lot of sense at the end of the day. It's like, yes, we understand the birth of your child means a lot. It's okay to be there on the day, maybe the day after, but to take 2 entire weeks off during training camp when you're the general manager of a franchise is not a good look. And a lot of people involved in that front office were pretty pissed off, and that's why the story got out. Like, what the hell? Like, is this real? So it just kind of felt like Kwesi was never really a general manager in a lot of ways. But there's a side of Kwesi that I can defend. It felt like pretty much from the day he got there, he didn't really, they didn't, it's like, yeah, you're the general manager, but we're going to like pretty much, override you in every way we can. Like the hiring of a new head coach. Like, yeah, he was pretty much a Jim Harbaugh guy. And Jim Harbaugh was here because of Kwesi, and also the fact Jim Harbaugh is a pretty established coach. Unfortunately, he lost the Super Bowl by a very narrow margin to the Baltimore Ravens and his older brother, John Harbaugh, who is now the coach of the Giants. But it felt like Kwesi was kind of up against it from day one because he was more of a kind of a analytics nerd versus like a, eye test, classic, get down in the trenches with the, maybe not down in the trenches, but really do studying of, scouting players and such, studying, watching videos, and kind of living the life of a general manager. Whereas Kwesi was kind of, again, more of an analytics nerd. Look at these numbers, look at those numbers, and this adds up to this, and that adds up to that, which is okay, it works, but it's okay to include it in your scouting. It's okay to include it in your judgments and your decisions as you go forward as a general manager with the draft, free agency, and whatever, even potential trades. But it felt like that was too much with Kwesi. That's kind of been the conversation. And again, it seemed like he was more of kind of an office person versus a general manager where there's more to it. You're more blue collar, so to speak. You're there really focused on scouting players and, analyzing things without just analytics. So there's more to it, and that seemed to be lacking with Kwesi pretty much from day one. Again, then if your confidence is that low in the man you hired to be your general manager, then why'd you hire him? That's kind of like number one, first of all. So unfortunately, it just felt like it was a relationship that was meant to be broken, and it only lasted 4 years. So that's kind of where things go with Kwesi. And as we kind of shift towards the Super Bowl and the quarterback that won the Super Bowl, it's just kind of like you analyze that situation. Would the Vikings have won the Super Bowl with Sam Darnold this season if the Vikings had Sam Darnold? I say absolutely not. Absolutely not. It's a combination of things. Now, Seattle had a way better offensive line, a way more balanced offensive approach. Who won the MVP of the Super Bowl? The running back. Now, why would the running back win the Super Bowl? Because there's a more balanced offense. It's not just kind of throw, run, throw, run, here and there. We'll just run when it's convenient. They ran and ran and ran. And Darnold did get his share of throws. It was a balanced attack. And the offensive line was way the heck better. The offensive line let Drake May down big time in the Super Bowl. Now, Drake May was a little bit in over his head because Seattle's defense was the best in the league. It's safe to say Seattle's got the best defense in the NFL. Their head coach, Mike Macdonald, no relation to Michael Macdonald. You don't know me, but I'm your brother. Just kidding. Michael Macdonald. No, sorry. I got a kick out of that. But 38 years of age, by the way, and those eyes are intense. He's an intense defensive-minded coach and a great coach. Yep, he's really good. So is Mike Vrabel, though. I think Vrabel's a great coach, too. And I hope both of them can I hope Mike Vrabel can win a Super Bowl as a head coach. He obviously did as a player multiple times with the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick. I mean, I could go in so many angles here. But again, the whole Sam Darnold thing, it's such a tough go here. It's frustrating. Like, and again, the other major factor that took place into why Sam Darnold was so much better with Seattle, particularly in the postseason games, when a lot of us were afraid he was just going to shrink. He was going to be a shrinking violet in the postseason again. He was going to turn into a pumpkin. Like the whole Cinderella thing, like he did last year. He turned into a pumpkin against the Detroit Lions in the regular season Super Bowl game. For you go from the number one seed in the entire NFL to the fifth seed, and then you get smushed by the Los Angeles Rams, and not to mention you got destroyed by Detroit and LA twice. Actually, we barely lost to Detroit in the first one, but yeah, we lost. But got annihilated by the Rams twice, and got beat by the Detroit Lions in humiliating fashion in the season finale. Yes, they're on the road, but of course, Sam Darnold was on the road as well in San Francisco when they were trying to get the number one seed. And what happened? You think San Francisco's a tough place too. They've got 5 Super Bowls. There's been a great history there, and all of that. So, and I have something to talk about their coach as well, related to Kevin O'Connell and the LA Rams coach. We'll get to that in a second. But so many factors as to why Darnold was better. Again, the offensive line was better. The offensive scheme was more balanced. But what's the other thing? Sam Darnold went through all of that crap last year, the disappointment and the deer in the headlights BS, and he learned from it. He got stronger. So that's kind of a way to look at it as well. I think the Vikings would have had a very successful, maybe 12 to 13 win season this year, maybe with Sam Darnold at quarterback, maybe. And I think so. I think they would have won 12 to 13 games. Maybe would have gotten to the division or the NFC title game, but they would have probably lost to the Rams or the Seahawks. Well, not the Seahawks. Who knows who the Seahawks quarterback would have been this year? That's the crazy part. If Darnold stays with the Vikings, the Seahawks definitely do not win the Super Bowl. I'm just wondering who their quarterback would have been. That's actually a pretty good question. They would have probably found somebody, and maybe they would have snuck into the postseason and been like an annoying team that knocks you out in the first round, and then got beat in the second round by a better club. But who knows who their quarterback would have been? That's actually really interesting to think about. But they had all the pieces except the quarterback, and then you bring in Darnold, and there you go, including a really good defensive head coach, not named Mike Zimmer. A defensive coordinator becoming a head coach that isn't, basically a jackass, dare I say. It's too bad. I hate to call Zimmer a jackass. I thought he was a pretty good coach for a while, but I don't know. He went from a good guy to a guy just kind of almost like looking for a fight every couple seconds. Dare we say, we got to cut this loser, It's but last week you were talking about how good this player was. X player, this player, that player. So, apologize for this annoying, ridiculous nonsense. My work phone is constantly being harassed by whatever they are, scammers, basically. Dare we say? Scammers and spammers. Same thing. What's another angle I was going to get to in this one? Now I feel semi-distracted because of that. That's frustrating. But, the whole Sam Darnold situation, I pretty much covered all the bases. I think that's really all it was. Drake May, on the other side of the equation, obviously the Patriots defense kept them in it. The Patriots defense got them to the Super Bowl. But it felt like Drake May kind of, he has a lot to kind of learn. He has a lot to learn, and of course they need to improve the offensive line in New England. And I can imagine free agents wanting to go to New England to push that franchise over the top and get their ring, basically. Drake May is definitely going to get better, and kind of what I was leaning towards was it's clearly not Tom Brady. Obviously it's not the same. Like the Patriots with Tom Brady was a magical thing. They've never won a championship without him, which is kind of sad to say, but they haven't. I don't even remember the quarterback's name in '85. Obviously '96 you had Drew Bledsoe, and this one you had Drake May. Otherwise the titles were the titles were all for Tom Brady, and then a couple of losses mixed in as well, unfortunately. So, interestingly enough, the Patriots are tied with the Steelers for the most wins in Super Bowl history, but also they are number one now officially in the most losses. Like how Denver had officially lost 5 Super Bowls and they got killed by Seattle 12 years ago. They got destroyed by Seattle 12 years ago. That was their 5th loss. But then they came back and won their 3rd Super Bowl. So, okay, 3-5. At least you got 3 championships, you know. So there's that. You lost the Super Bowl in the 70s, and then 3 of them in the Elway era. And then eventually Elway got a couple to wrap up his career and move on and, completely change his own personal history in the Super Bowl. And, yeah, he doesn't go down as a Marino who was there but never won. I don't think Drake May is going to be a Marino because, Marino was obviously young and, all of that, and then they got destroyed by the 49ers in 84. Destroyed by the 49ers. And that's what happened. You got to see Montana Marino, and it was clearly Montana, not Marino in that one. And then Marino never went back. But I don't think Drake May alienates his receivers like Dan Marino. And I think that's one of the reasons Marino never got a ring, because he was, again, kind of a jackass. Wasn't he, though? Like, every time there was an interception, it was never his fault. It was nothing but attitude all the time, and that's probably why Rodgers never won a second one. So, possibly. Always somebody else's fault whenever there was a mistake. So, there's that. Okay, the other angle I wanted to get to as it came back to me is the O'Connell, Shanahan, and Sean McVay conversation. Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay are quarterback whispers. Kevin O'Connell was included in that conversation, but he won't be anymore. And that's a big thing. He won't be. He doesn't deserve it because he's been exposed. Sam Darnold got better under Kyle Shanahan, and then Kevin O'Connell capitalized on it. Now, I don't doubt O'Connell did a pretty good job with Darnold to a point, but then what was the end result? A first-round loss because of an imbalanced offense. Obviously, the poor offensive line did not help Sam Darnold, but, you could keep a defense honest if you can have a little better running game. Obviously, that comes back on both the coach and the GM there. They kind of share that with the lack of a running game. Yeah, with the lack of the running game overall. You bring in Aaron Jones, yeah, he's fine, but he was like 30-plus and always hurt. And you had, Ty Chandler behind him. This year you brought in Jordan Mason. It balanced out a tiny bit more. And funny, when they finally started to actually balance out, them being the coaching staff, when the Vikings were 4-8 and eliminated from the postseason already, that's when the offense was balanced and the Vikings won football games. Now, also, the pressure was off. That's another part of it. The pressure was off, McCarthy and such, but the Vikings won the last 5 games, and they looked better doing it for the most part. But to me, that defeats the whole quarterback whisper conversation. I think there's 2 quarterback whispers in the NFL. Their names are Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Sean McVay got Baker Mayfield going in the right direction. Kyle Shanahan got Sam Darnold, and now possible candidate to be the Vikings quarterback going forward as well. To be, Mac Jones, of course. Like Mac Jones clearly looks like a guy that probably should start for somebody. So he's kind of the next Sam Darnold in a lot of ways, and again, coming from the same team as well. So a very interesting move. I remember supporting the whole Sam Darnold move at the time, partially just because, what the heck, give him a chance, to be the, starting quarterback of the Vikings at least for a year, and then you go with McCarthy afterward, and if Sam Darnold ends up, earning a job, ends up impressing and getting a job somewhere else to be a starter, great. And if not, oh well, you've got McCarthy. And that was kind of the approach. At the end of last year, yes, I was pro, going with McCarthy. So yes, guilty as charged. Guilty as charged. A lot of us were wrong about O'Connell in a lot of ways. We thought O'Connell would have McCarthy going in the right direction, but this season showed that he really didn't have him going in the right direction. Whether McCarthy's truly ready to be a quarterback or not in the NFL, a starting franchise quarterback and all of that, O'Connell clearly didn't have McCarthy going in the right direction and doesn't have the offense headed in the right direction until it was kind of too little too late. So it's definitely going to be, he's definitely going to be under some probation this year. There's no doubt about it. The numbers and all that, Kenneth Walker III, obviously looked like Terrell Davis out there, where it's just pretty much hand the ball off to him. Now, of course, the blocking was good as well. Like, guys don't just magically run through holes because they're a better running back. But they, again, the better running backs exploit the holes and have the quickness to obviously exploit the hole and then just, break a tackle or two along the way as well. So it's a combination of offensive line and running back when you have a good running game. Vikings seem to kind of lack both the last several years, generally speaking. But again, the lack of balance, and when there was balance, the Vikings looked better. Seattle was balanced. Kenneth Walker III, 135 rushing yards. It felt like 200. He looked a lot like Terrell Davis out there, plus also kind of a shorter guy, but could just bolt through. 27 rushing attempts, 5 yards on average, a 30 long. No big giant super chunk play like he ran for 99 yards, and that's why his average is up. Otherwise, he was averaging maybe about 2 or 3 yards a carry. No, not the case. It was technical football out there for the Seattle Seahawks. It was just, like when the better team hands the ball off and they get tons of yards, and then they are able to have some ups and downs because obviously the Patriots secondary is pretty damn good. The Patriots defense overall, pretty damn good. Crazy to think they only got to Darnold once, but there was a bunch of hurries along the way. It's not like Darnold had a dazzling performance. He was 50%, 202 yards, quarterback rating of 74.7. I mean, that's like an average to below average McCarthy game at the end of the day. But the lack of sacks is definitely a difference maker, and that's one of the reasons why the Seahawks were able to keep things moving for the most part. Patriots defense did not, it was bend but not break, but the other side of the equation, why the score got a little more lopsided, was Drake May was not protected well at all. I believe he was tied for the most sacks. Him and Joe Burrow, that's the reason why they both lost the Super Bowl, even though they were nice whiz kids getting to the Super Bowl. They are all-time leaders in quarterback sacks, meaning themselves getting sacked because of the poor offensive line in front of them. Poor offensive line play. Like the left tackle had a terrible game. And, yeah, if your left tackle has a terrible game in the Super Bowl, you're probably not going to win. But Drake May, at the same time, some of the decision-making, maybe panicking a bit and such, didn't help either. 2 interceptions, 2 fumbles. One of them was a scoop and score. The others just interceptions that cost them at the end of the day and put the Seahawks in at least position to score another field goal. But Seattle ultimately would get both of their touchdowns off of turnovers, be it either one of them was just a scoop and score and the other put them in position to score a touchdown right away. So that's when the game changed, unfortunately. Other than that, the Patriots were in this game, believe it or not. And the craziest part of all, Drake May had a higher quarterback rating than Sam Darnold despite the 2 interceptions, which is really weird to think about. It's actually kind of funny. Kind of sad. Weird that they're showing only 1 fumble lost. It was a strip. I guess they call it a strip sack. That's pretty much what it was. But shouldn't that count as a fumble loss? Because, yeah, that was a scoop and score when he was throwing the ball. And then, Seattle went to the, it was a scoop and score situation. The game got chippy at times. Stephon Diggs was getting hit out of bounds, and like the refs weren't even calling it. And then Diggs was just like, all right, that's BS. Started fighting with the Seattle defenders. So, I don't know. Disappointing, sad, but that's kind of what happened here. Very disappointing, to say the least. Very, very disappointing. If Drake May did have a better offensive line in front of him, I'm sure he would have performed better, but he also missed some wide open opportunities. 27 of 43 overall. Again, the Patriots are pretty much playing behind from the beginning of the game. It was 3-0 Seattle right away. Patriots never tied it up once. They were behind the entire game, basically. So, and Seattle fell behind by 3 points once. It was like wasn't it like about a minute or so? I think it was about a minute they fell behind the entire postseason. So it was a pretty dominating postseason for the Seahawks this year. It truly was. But combination of things, the offensive line and Drake May being young and maybe making some not so great decisions along the way. Did not have a great postseason, but again, the pressure was constantly coming at him. That did not help. The Patriots won 14 games for a reason, not just because they had an easy schedule. Sure, that's part of it. But Drake May is part of the success of this team, obviously, and the defense is part of the success as well. So, no reason to really trash on the Patriots and think they didn't deserve to be there and this and that. It is what it is. If Buffalo got there, so be it. And that would have been fun to watch. It would have been fun to watch, but odds are they would have lost too. Just kind of felt like it was Seattle's year, unfortunately. At the end of the day, as much as I kept picking the Patriots to win, you could kind of feel they were up against it, and if they won, it would be a very impressive performance. And it would have taken Drake May having a great game, which he did not. He truly didn't. Again, it's ironic, though, that his quarterback rating is slightly better than Darnold's, despite the interceptions and all of that. So it's kind of funny. Stats are interesting sometimes when you look at that. Anything else I really have to say about this one is not much. Really not much. You miss Tom Brady. If you're somebody that likes the Patriots, a lot of you don't. So there is that. Yeah, I mean, it's just... there's always this hope, like, oh, Tom Brady's going to lead this team down the field, and they're going to get the job done. But heck, even Brady lost Super Bowls. He lost 3 of them. Isn't that crazy? But all 3 of them were in close, heartbreaking fashion. None of them were lopsided, icky games like this. So this was kind of like going back to not the 85 Patriots, but kind of like the 96 Patriots. The young, up and coming quarterback. Bledsoe had a few years on his belt, though, by then, and he was kind of already about in his prime. So it'll be interesting to see what Drake May does in his prime. Be interesting to see. I'm definitely not going to be somebody that would be like, oh, yeah, that was his one chance, and he's never going back. Oh, he's going back. I got to think he will. And along with the fact that he did look like he was straining on a lot of his throws, because obviously he had a shoulder issue, and he was shot up pretty good right before the game. His shoulder took a big, a big cortisone shot right before the game, painkiller shot. And yeah, I can't imagine that he was 100% out there. Like, nobody's 100% at this time of year, but if it's your throwing shoulder, I can't imagine it was all that easy for him. That's why you might have saw some ugly throws. Again, there was a tight end that was wide open. That may have been like a 30 to 40 yard play that he just flat missed. Like, he just missed. It was like ugly. It was like one of those ugly McCarthy throws that a lot of us got mad at earlier in the year when McCarthy was really struggling and he had no confidence in one of those awful games where, yeah, a lot of us were like, he's Christian Ponder all over again or worse, which I truly do not believe. We'll see how McCarthy does going forward at the end of the day. But for that, we're going to jump into fan interaction. I don't have a whole lot of other babbling to get into about this game. It wasn't all that great. It really wasn't. Wish it was better. At Purple Mafia Show, and yes, we will hear from Mad Martin. I should check last second here. No, I didn't get any Google. I encourage people to email their call-ins to Google if you're going to call in again, which I do truly appreciate if you do. Love to hear from Mad Martin. Any type of off-season conversation. It would be great to hear from him coming on and out of Northern Scotland. PaladinoLive@gmail.com. I probably still have yahoo.com in the description, but gmail.com is the way to go. Because I see the notification right away. Yahoo has gotten weird. I don't know what's going on. Oh, he did. He did call in. I found it. Yep, it's Jan 24. Okay, I found it. Okay, good. We are going to hear from Mad Martin right here and right now.
Well, happy belated New Year, Joey, and everybody that listens to the show. So divisional weekend has just passed, and I can't believe Buffalo has fired their head coach, because ultimately the failure there is a little bit like the Purples, the front offices of both franchises, drafting-wise, have been appalling. And who takes the buck for that one? Obviously the head coach. Looking back on the wild card and divisional rounds, with average QB play, we've missed a great opportunity to perhaps reach an NFC championship game. Now, I'm under no illusions with the type of game that O'Connell has played that we would get to a Super Bowl. Now, as to you being accused of being a hater in regards to Darnold, no, you're absolutely bang on. He's gone to Seattle, who, if you look at the stats this year, have run the ball more than any other team except Baltimore, who have Jackson, so that pads their stats. So you could argue they've run the ball more than any other team in the NFL this year. And defensively, they have been magnificent. And they do pass the eye test. Watching a couple of games in the postseason, certainly, yeah, they look legit. And Darnold doesn't have to do a great deal. He has been the game manager. And so all these people saying, oh, we should have kept him. Well, if we had kept him, yeah, we would have been in the playoffs. And let's make no doubt about it that this team could have had an opportunity to go fairly deep, perhaps even making the NFC Championship game. But I don't believe for one moment with O'Connell's pass-happy niche system that against an elite defence they would have crumbled. And we'll be back to square one because you're putting everything on Darnold and he would have cracked. So moving on, I think, was without doubt the sensible move. And the biggest problem, yes, a lot of people are complaining about McCarthy. I'll give him the fact that it was his first full season and the injury concerns are massive going forward. But the biggest issue with this team in 2025 was the lack of adaptation from the head coach with this, I'm going to play my way and screw it. And it didn't work. And yes, eventually he adapted, but too late. All you can hope going forward is that O'Connell learns from his mistakes and creates a more balanced offence. I know he doesn't like to run the ball, but it's all part of the game, isn't it? And if he can't get that through his skull, then I'm not sure what he's doing as a play caller. So we shall see. But no, I'm totally with you. No, it was the best move for us to move on. Now we'll see how they fix this problem at the quarterback position. I see B-Flow is having a second interview with Pittsburgh. So I guess we'll just wait and see and hope that the guy comes back as the defensive mastermind that he has become. Otherwise, that is another big issue that I'm not sure how they resolve. And then you look at the head coaching firings this year. It's just unbelievable. Is it like 11, 12? So you're looking at a third of the league firing their head coaches. It's madness. And some of them have done a lot better than O'Connell and have been fired. So is there an argument that perhaps it is time to move on after 4 years? There's some great talented coaches out there. Is it worth a consideration? I doubt the Wilfs would do it, but I'd like to think they'll think about it. Anyway, Joey, I think and I suspect Seattle will win the Super Bowl this year. They certainly look the best team by a mile. The Rams might upset them, but I can't see it, especially at home. I suspect New England will make it, considering that Bo Nix is now out for Denver. So there's another, if only we had tanked in 23. Cousins goes down. It's basically, screw it. We know the type of quarterbacks that are coming out in the next draft. Let's do it. And, of course, we didn't. And here we are, stuck in mediocrity, as always. Oh, I'm seeing that Brian Flores has agreed terms, so that is a major relief. And makes me feel a lot more positive about going forward into 26. So we shall see what we shall see. And say, championship weekend, I hope Denver get battered purely for the fact that I detest their coach, Sean Payton, the scumbag. So New England, Seattle in the Super Bowl for me, and hopefully Seattle win it. Right, Joey, I shall leave it there. Skull, brothers and sisters. Looking forward to the off-season.
And I thank you so much for that call in, Dave Martin, Mad Martin, out of northern Scotland. Yep, sounding a lot like, I agree with you 1,000% with the whole Darnold situation, that it wouldn't have worked the same here. It wouldn't have. I don't think it was like this idiot move that's like, that's why Mr. That's why Kwesi got fired. No, it was death by 1,000 cuts. It was a lot of different things, including the fact that he wasn't really, didn't really seem as nearly as involved as you need to be as a general manager. So it just wasn't the right fit, basically, at the end of the day. And that Darnold, well, again, kind of like not the right fit either. And maybe O'Connell's not the right fit as the head coach at the end of the day. It's kind of sad. Like, we're actually able to truly question it now when you look at the big picture. This is probably more O'Connell than Kwesi in terms of the overall failures. Now, again, Kwesi's terrible drafting is a part of it, but of course the scouting staff as well. You got to look at some of the thinking there. Like, I don't know. It's a combination of things. So great call-in, and you were definitely dead on. Of course, as you noticed, that call-in was leading into the championship Sunday. Somehow I missed it, and Dave Martin was saying that it was there, and he called, and then now I see it. So I'm not sure what happened at the end of the day. So I deeply apologize that things went the way they did here. I'm not sure what happened. I deeply apologize. I'm glad it showed up. Yep, but at the end of the day, yes, I'd say Paladino Live at Google or at gmail.com. Of course, if you want to still do Yahoo, that's fine, but maybe the success rate would be better with Google. I still to this day don't understand what happened there because I would see it. So deeply apologize for that. We're going to hear more from Dave Martin in the Twitter. It looks like, it's Dave Martin leading the way here. A lot of other people just kind of got quiet and disappeared. So unfortunately, hope I hear from some of you more in the off-season shows coming up. So here we go. Mad Martin says, what I find so frustrating is the fact that both starting quarterbacks could have been in our roster. Yep. As always, we roll back to 23 when Cousins went down and they won meaningless games. Yeah, wasn't that dumb? Yep, they won meaningless games when the opportunity was there to draft a certain starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. Yeah, Drake May. The development, continuing is another tweet. Of course, the development of new bands after Live Aid was drastically reduced as the record companies just rolled out more of those stadium-filling old bands and went down the road of corporate music. New bands didn't get the opportunity as much as they did so before. Yep, some of these weird choices that have been. Yeah, these weird choices. Yep, and I was making a comment of, how did I say it? Dang, what did I type? Just kind of went, there we go. I was saying, forgive me, but I don't understand what the hell these fools are saying. Sorry, but ... That was basically what I said during the halftime show. No, I wasn't a fan of it, no. Mad Martin says rubbish is one word for it. And I said, oh, big time. Terrible from the get-go, or terrible from the word go, basically. Mad Martin wraps things up saying, was expecting a defensive battle. Patriots were bound to be found out after their easy schedule. And yes. And of course, again, the fact that Drake May was out, Bo Nix was out, that helped them. Drake May did a whole lot of nothing against that great Denver defense. And to be fair, again, one of the reasons why Drake May struggled, again, obviously that offensive line wasn't real good. And shoot, he faced great defenses all the way through the postseason. The Chargers, great defense. Denver, great defense. Houston, great defense. Yes. And the Seahawks were the best of all of them. So that's what it was. I typed in, it's just a damn shame. I miss Tom Brady. This would have been a much better game at the very least. So that kind of wraps things up right there. So going forward, it's going to be State of the Vikings. It'll be the next episode in the next 2 to 3 weeks, something along those lines, because got to keep moving. I'm going to keep the shows coming, I guess, as best possible. So I'm going to put out tweets or X or whatever the heck it's called. So if you can, at Purple Mafia Show, I'll put out a poll for your most valuable player, your biggest disappointment, and biggest surprise. So you go get on there and vote, and feel free to comment away as well, like reasons as to why you voted a certain direction. Otherwise, if you could put a positive / 5-star rating on for the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I'd be more than appreciated if you could. I really hope you could out there, those of you that haven't yet. Other than that, again, the way to call in, the way Mad Martin was able to do so, simply open up there's free voice recording apps all over your smart device, often built-in ones, be it Apple or Samsung or whatever. Just basically press record, talk into it like a phone call or a voicemail. When you're done, save it and share it to Paladino Live at yahoo.com or Paladino Live at gmail.com, which might be the better choice at this point. And I will then convert it into an MP3 file thanks to cloudconvert.com, where you can convert files. Really valuable place. It's helped me with pictures as well, because you need JPEGs to work with the software here. So with that said, thank you again so much. Disappointed with the overall game, but definitely not as, definitely a more likable group of players and coach, I guess, than the Seattle Seahawks last time they won the Super Bowl. So I don't come out of this like furious, but disappointed for sure. It's not the team I wanted to win. Disappointing. So that's kind of where we stand with that, I suppose. I'm just like, kind of at a loss of words. It just wasn't that good. It wasn't good at all. So wishing all of you a very nice late winter, I guess, as we head forward into the draft season and all of that, head forward into free agency and the draft and all that. But State of the Vikings, be ready for that, and be ready to start clicking and voting and commenting if you could on the Twitter, the X. That's kind of going to be our primary way of conversating, because I still can't get on Facebook unless I recreate another Facebook page with my new account again. I still might just do that, but it's kind of ridiculous. That'd be the third Purple Mafia Facebook page. And I don't know, I'm getting really frustrated. It'd be nice to get into my regular Facebook account, but I've been unable to do so. It was hacked and I can't get in, so I just can't. So not sure what to say with that. Thank you again so much for listening, and we will be back in 2 to 3 weeks.